Hi everyone, welcome to our great GeekFest drawing demo. My name's Melissa and I'm going to be getting us started today. First, we are going to be doing a drawing for the kids. We're going to draw Bluey. All right, so make sure you've got that paper and pencil ready. Before we get started, you might notice I am in our Maker's Annex. It's pretty cool. We've got our pen tablet here that I'm going to be drawing on with this fancy cool special pencil. And you can come in, this is open to the public, you can come in and use this and all our other cool features and craft supplies and all sorts of fun things here in the Maker Annex. So let's get started drawing Bluey. First, you're going to start with a large rectangle with rounded corners. So let's get that on there. Perfect. And it doesn't have to be perfectly right. The fun part about drawing is doing it, even if it doesn't look excellent when you get done. All right, so Bluey has some big pointy ears, so let's get those on there. Excellent. All right, let's do Bluey's legs. Those are just going to be some straight lines right on the bottom. Awesome. And then his paws are her paws are little half circles there. And we'll put in her little toes. Excellent. All right, let's go ahead and do her arms. So we're going to start about midway on your rectangle and come down at an angle. Great. Okay. And then right at this bottom corner, we're going to do a little circle for her thumb. Perfect. You're going to come out and do a little loop for her fingers, and then the last finger is tucked a little bit behind, so you're going to come from the arm and tuck it behind like that. Great job. Try that on the other side as well. Perfect. Okay. So let's add in her tail. She's got a fluffy tail. So let's go bloop, bloop with a nice fluffy tail. Great job. Okay, let's do her face. So her eye is going to be a big circle. Great job. All right, let's do another one. Just a nice big circle. Oh, that one looks a little weird. I'm going to undo that one. Let's try another one. Excellent. Okay. For her nose, you're going to start right in the middle of her eye and come out. Then we're going to go down, swoop around, and up right under her eye again. And add a little bit to the smile. And then if you're using something that doesn't erase, you can just use this spot where it was her eye. You can color that in, and that can be her nose right there. Perfect. All right, let's add her pupil in the middle of her eye. Excellent. Add one to the other side. Great. All right, so Bluey has some floaty eyebrows. Let's add those in there. They're right over her ears. They look like kind of little beans. There we go. And then we'll add the detail in her ear. Perfect. And let's add the big spot that's on her belly. Great. And she's got a little spot on the side right here. Two little spots on her other side. Excellent. And then she's got some spots around her eyes. So you start at the ear and you come down. And then we're going to come over here and finish that spot out. And then we're going to do the other side. We're going to add a spot there and come down around her mouth and finish that out. And then she's got a color patch that goes around her mouth, so you can add that in there. Excellent, friends. You have just drawn Bluey. Now you can color it in and practice as many times as you want. Okay, we are going to switch over to our other cool drawing demo. My friend Natalie is going to do something extra cool. Here she comes.
Hello. So, hi, I'm Natalie, and I'm going to be drawing Bakugo from My Hero Academia. So I've already done the line art and I've gotten everything ready to get started. Since we're going to be coloring this one in, we have to make sure we get good colors, because good colors make the proper outfit. We're using the fun XP pen tablet, so it's like I'm drawing on a big screen, like a big mouse tablet. Digital drawing's really fun, but it's kind of expensive. So once you're able to get into it, it's such a worthwhile purchase. It is a steep learning curve to understand how digital art works differently than traditional art, but it's still, like, learning is such a fun thing. It's really entertaining to just keep learning how to do new things and do them better than you did before. So as I'm going in and coloring, I'm coloring right now everything that's orange in on the same layer, just so they're all together and I can separate the colors by each layer, but you don't have to do that when you do it. But as you're going in, you'll see that some things are a little messy, but you can just go in with the eraser and clean it up later like you would with a normal drawing. But since this is digital, there's no messy eraser shavings or having to sharpen a pencil all the time either, which is quite nice. It saves a lot of time. I believe this anime, My Hero Academia, started coming out in 2016 with the manga release. And then I believe it started getting the anime getting published in around 2018, and it's become one of the most popular animes in the world. It's especially popular with teens, a lot for the fun characters and fun character designs. If you watch the movie Sky High, a lot like I did growing up, it fits a certain niche that you wish you had for going to school. No one wants to do normal math classes. Why can't I take a class about, you know, fighting ice-themed supervillains? That sounds awesome. Way more fun than math. So I'm almost all done with my oranges. So after I finish these oranges and clean them up a little bit, I'm going to make a new layer and go in with another color. I think I'll probably do the dark green he uses for most of his costume and the blacks for some of the other details. Kind of has like a reverse pumpkin color scheme. Despite not being the main character, Bakugo is one of the most popular characters from the anime. Some people seem to like his violent personality, but you know, if you're a guy making explosions, why wouldn't you be angry? I mean, the Mythbusters would like him. So I'm going to make a new layer now, but I'm going to put it under the orange layer, so things that I draw underneath this won't show up above the orange. So we're going to color in these gauntlets. Oh, I'm using the eraser. That's why it's not working. Which happens far more often than I would like to admit with digital art. Is you don't know why something's working, and then you realize, oh, I was just using the wrong tool. I think I made the mistake when I first started watching My Hero Academia by watching the movies instead, because when I looked it up on the library website to check out a DVD to watch it, it showed the movie first, which had just come out, so a lot of people wanted it. So I watched the movie before I actually ended up watching the anime. So I was only a little confused at how these kids got to be, but it wasn't too bad, and it gave me enough interest to want to watch the whole series. And reading the manga is a lot, but it's so fun to get into a series with an active community, because then you can see what other people think, and you can talk about books together. it's like a big, wide book club, which is essentially what most people want when they get into a series, is to have someone to talk about it with. Because there's only so many things you want to talk about just with yourself or like 2 other people. So having a large community is always really fun because you can see how other people interpret the work and what things they can make out of the ideas that the author has come up with. So you can see on the little pockets he has here, I had overlaid some orange. So it was a little too messy, but I cleaned it up, so we're fine. So we're gonna go on to another color now, which will make the line art, which is what the black lines are here, a little harder to see, but that's okay. You can always go in later and clean things up, which I find to be the nice part about digital drawing compared to traditional drawing. Since when you're creating something digitally, like with acrylics or watercolor, you're only working on one layer. Plus, no one really likes dry time. So you have to simply just wait, and hopefully any mistakes you seem to have made you can fix after just a little time. But with digital art, you can just hit Control-Z or erase it without worrying too much about messing up other parts of the drawing. So that's his pants, and I think his boots are slightly brighter green, so I'll go back and add those in later. So we're coloring in the shirt and getting everything cleaned up. And it's one of those things, probably to do with color theory or just visuals, that once you put a color that's darker underneath a lighter color, you start to see a little better how messy your coloring was or how clean it was. So then you just switch to the eraser and clean it up. Digital drawing is cool because it also allows you to do certain things, like what's called alpha lock is to lock in a whole layer so you only draw on the pixels that already exist. So like I couldn't color on the white part of the canvas, but I could color on the green parts, if that makes sense. Which I find that tool to be really helpful for shading and making sure the piece overall looks more finished. And he uses a bit more of a darker green for these gloves. So I'm going to adjust the color and make it just a touch darker to add some more color variation and contrast to the piece. But you don't have to use all the same tools I'm using. There's a bunch of different ways to do art like this. There's different programs, there's different like products you can use, like different tablets and whatnot. But digital drawing is about figuring out what works for you and what you have access to. Because not everyone has access to the same things. Like, I went to a school that provided me with a drawing tablet and the programs to use, but not everyone can do that. I started out using like a free app on my dad's old tablet, which works out for a lot of people. I've seen some excellent art from free apps, or like the classic highly detailed like MS Paint drawings that blew me away as a kid, because when I went in to use MS Paint, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to draw this thing. But you know, I was a 10-year-old using MS Paint. It wasn't going to be great. It wasn't allowed to be perfect. But some people make it work for them, which is awesome. And some people just understand the programs better than others, which is just kind of how learning works. You get to figure out new things as you go. As you see, I'm pulling up some extra screens because I'm used to using Photoshop in a different way than it is set up here, which shows just how different you can set things up and make things work better for your workflow. Like, I keep doing that, trying to pull up the eyedropper tool to pick up the colors. With digital art, I also find there's a lot of back and forth between switching tools constantly. With, like, painting, you would keep holding the same brush for as long as possible, mapping out all the same colors before you rinse out and wash your brush. Because it's harder to get the precise colors if you have to set your brush down and remix the colors. So I'm letting this area around here be super messy because I'm just going to go in kind of a blonde tone for his hair. So it's going to cover it up anyway. And going back over, you can start to see the line art show up again, which is kind of hard to see against the dark outlines. So we're just going to go back over everything to bring out those outlines again. And obviously my line art here isn't very clean, but that's just kind of how my art style works, which for you, it might be different. And that's the fun thing. You can do art in any way you want. It'll look different than what like your friend would do or your neighbor or whoever. It's going to be different because you as a person are different, and how you see the world and how you process it are different. Which that's all art really is showing others how you process the world. I mean, it might not be as philosophical as, you know, drawing a character from your favorite TV show or movie, but I mean, that's what a lot of people did before more media was produced, which is why you get paintings like Jesus and the Disciples and the Last Supper, or the paintings Michelangelo did. It's just how people see the world and what they're interested in. So they decide, hey, this is cool, I'm gonna make something about it. Which it's really fun to do if you can ever get the chance. And art can be anything. A little napkin doodle, a little sculpture. You can even make an entire Lego build dedicated to something, and it's still art. Did you know, back in even like Neanderthalic times, art was taught to toddlers? In a French cave, they discovered a very early form of animation. With, once you swung a light on the wall where there was a bunch of lines, you could see a moving picture. A lot of those, which is similar to what we use now for certain books, where we want a moving picture without moving the book. It's like when the lines are like, and you move it, it makes a picture. I think there was one about a horse running that was really popular when I was younger, because I thought it was fascinating. Like, it's not moving, but it's still moving. So I'm going to go in and lay out the flat colors for the skin now, which fortunately there is not a lot of, because painting skin to look realistic, which is typically what I tend to go for, is really hard, because in skin tones there's a lot of different color variations, and trying to get it look the way you want it to can be hard if you don't know what you're doing, which I don't entirely know what I'm doing at any point, which is just, you know, how most people do things. So as I'm going through and coloring things, I try and stay in the lines, but if I go over them, it's not a big deal. It's only a big deal if you're in a coloring book contest where the only rule is to stay between the lines. So then I'm gonna color pick for the gloves over here, go back over. And this is very similar to how I would do it normally, except I'm doing this piece a little bit quicker than normal because we're on a time crunch. But it's a lot of back and forth, going over things, cleaning things up, adding more color, blending, shading. All of the art terms you got taught in art class, even if you didn't really understand them. But that's fine, that's the point of art class. You're there to learn stuff about art. So if you saw, these two hands look very similar because when I was doing the line art, I went through and copied each side so it would look a bit more symmetrical and have similar detail on each side, which overall makes the piece look more cohesive. And since our bodies are kind of symmetrical, it just works a little better that way. So we're gonna go in, finish that, and then I'm gonna go through and find a layer where I've added the hair, and between that and the skin, and I'm going to do his kind of classic superhero eye mask, but he wanted to make it a bit more him and add some spikes. Gonna go over certain parts, and you can see here I forgot to color in his ear, so I'll go back and do that later. But that's also the nice part about having lines down, is you know where to go and where the edges are. And my little art secret is no one can tell how much your line art affects the piece until you turn it off. Because it's a little scary to see your art without the line art on it. Because it kind of just looks like a weird, colorful blob, and then you're like, oh, the lines are back. This is fine now. Everything that was there makes sense now. So going back in and cleaning up the edges of the mask. Cleaning out the eye area so he can actually see. And then going back in, filling in the little white spots that happen. Coloring in his ear like I said I would. And then I'm gonna come over and grab a silvery color to do the gauntlet little things here in, and the silver parts of the gauntlet as well. You have to be careful when you're doing digital drawing and you don't always check your layers, which are these things over here, because you'll realize, oh, I wanted to keep those separate when you didn't. And then that's a whole process of cleaning things up and copying and moving things over. But that's just how art is. It's a learning process. And that's pretty fun about it. You kind of just get to do what you want at your own pace. And as you're going through and learning more things about art, you get to understand your process better. And it's honestly kind of a meditative thing. I don't normally talk this much when I draw, or talk at all if I'm alone. But just being able to focus on something and get to see a final product is really rewarding and satisfying. So I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna place a layer. So I can go in and color the eyes in. And typically eyes aren't, like the whites of your eyes, the sclera isn't totally white. So I've got a little bit of like yellow and pink in there. But his eyes are red, you know, a little spooky, but it fits his personality. Then we're also gonna go in and hopefully color in his teeth if I place the layers right. And I have. Now sometimes when you're doing your line art, you also make like indication of other things that you're going to do in the drawing. Like I've put this little line here for shading later, and I'm on the spot heal brush, not the normal brush. And then we'll color in his little knee pads, like one would wear for skateboarding or roller skating. But he's decided to wear them for fighting villains. Which, you know, safety first. No one's gonna fault you for that. But with that, we're almost done. And we just have to finish coloring in the shoes. And I think that'll wrap us up. But if you want to try out digital drawing without spending the money on the tablet, come check it out at the library. Use this tablet that I'm using right now and try out Photoshop. But there's a bunch of other different drawing apps out there if you want to try out something different. Or if the price of Photoshop isn't really for you, that's why we're here at the library. A couple more quick touch-ups, and I think we can call this done. there you go. We also have the manga for My Hero Academia here. If you want to check out the series for yourself, I highly encourage it. It's a wonderful series. And here's Bakugo from the original art.